England versus India. The Cricket Badger Test Match Daily Podcast. Can Joe Root's England dominate on home soil? 5 mouth-watering test matches. Can Virat Kohli's India conquer the final frontier? Loving to talk test cricket every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It's another edition of the Cricket Badger podcast. I'm James Butler, the Cricket Badger. And I'll introduce you to my fan badgers in just a second, but we've just seen the end of the first day at Lords with India finishing on 276 for 3. And to help me talk about all things the second test match at Lords, as you'll see, I'm joined by Randy, aka Rob Lewis, got Dan Kelly on as well, and Neil Varani too. Hello, chaps.
Hi, mate.
Hey, James.
Evening.
And how did you enjoy? I'm going to start with Neil, the Indian fan, because I think it's fair to say that India are on top at the end of day one at Lords. After losing the toss, Joe Root opted to put India in, Neil. At the time, did you think that was the right move from him?
Not really, just because on the broadcast we were watching, then Mikey Holding and Nick Knight had just done a piece on the pitch saying that it was quite dry, that the weather was supposed to get better through the day. All right, so you might get a tough first hour or two, but it gradually get worse to bat on over the test match, and really you wanted to be batting first. I was pretty happy.
I saw a W.G. Grace quote. It's one of my favourite quotes of cricket, this one, where he basically says about winning the toss. When you win the toss, bat. If you're in doubt, think about it, then bat. If you're having very big doubts, consult a colleague, then bat. I think 99 times out of 100, it's the right thing to do, isn't it, Rob, to kind of show the positive body language and kind of put yourself in there and say, right, we can score more runs than you. But maybe the mentality with England at the moment with the batting isn't quite so confident.
Yeah, I don't know. I think overall, in general, regardless of conditions, you would bat fast. I think there's like a slight advantage of the stats. But I don't know. I don't think it was the worst call because it was overcast and a bit of humidity. I mean, the ball was moving around a lot early doors. I just thought you've got to hand it to the openers. They saw out the storm.
Well, I was going to ask you, Dan, about that because England have had their batting woes. We've been critical of England in the past at kind of making nice 20s and kind of getting out and stuff. The exhibition that KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, and I thought even Virat Kohli today put on was really a good example to some of the England batsmen that it doesn't necessarily have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be fours and everything every 5 seconds. You can bat sensibly, show some patience and stay there to the end. And by the time you finish the day, as Ajinkya Rahane, as KL Rahul has done, you're 120 odd not out and flying and you're into tomorrow.
Yeah, brilliant. KL was fantastic. What a brilliant innings. I really, really enjoyed watching that. I think that is how to open the batting, and it's I'd imagine there's quite a few players sitting on the sidelines for England. In probably Zach Crawley and Dan Lawrence can have a look at the way they all applied themselves, and probably should take a lot from that. That is the standard that is required, and that's coming from someone like KL Rahul as well, who wouldn't even be playing if probably three ahead of him if they were fit.
He was fourth in the list, I think, Dan, wasn't he? He was fourth in the list because Shubman Gill was ahead of him.
Yeah.
Mayank Agarwal was ahead of him. Obviously, Rohit Sharma was ahead of him, so he was the fourth choice.
You look at
Prithvi Shaw as well.
Prithvi Shaw, yeah. You look at him today and you think, how is he not averaging 50? The complete player. I think England have, just going back to the toss, I think they've probably made a mistake. I wonder how much, if I couldn't see England closing the day on 277 for 3, I think probably 50 for 3 would have been more likely in them conditions. So I could see why Root bowled. That may well have been, the batting could have played a part more than the overcast conditions. But brilliant to watch. India, fantastic.
Rob, what Dan just said there about England's bowlers, I don't think they bowled that badly. I don't think they bowled badly at all. It was just very good batting, wasn't it? And I saw somebody on Twitter reply about the toss scenario, saying exactly what Dan's just said. If England had batted here, they'd have been 4 down by lunch, and that was always the potential, wasn't it? Maybe
that came into his head. We don't want to put ourselves under pressure and go into difficult conditions straight away. I didn't think we bowled bad. Like Robinson and Anderson were getting the ball to move around, and they were scoring very slowly. Like they were struggling to get it off the square. But I think the problem came. I mean, I backed Sam Curran, but I think he came on first change today, unless I'm mistaken. And he didn't have the same lines as Anderson and Robertson, so. It quickly went from being quite tight, and they just started picking up runs, and confidence grew. So we needed someone else now. Maybe they should have bowled Mark Wood then. Perhaps that was a mistake.
Did Mark Wood bowl in the morning session at all? I don't think he did he?
I can't quite remember, to be perfectly honest.
It took him a long time to bowl him, didn't it?
I think he might have bowled 1 or 2. I'm not sure.
But certainly not a lot. And I thought Mark Wood generally would be above Sam Curran in the pecking order. So I thought that was a bit of a mistake. And you could see after the first change, the momentum was just like going to India.
Let's go back to India, because as I say, it's their day today. 276 for 3 at the close, Neil. And KL Rahul, very patient, quite slow at the start of the day's play, but finished 127 not out. He's got his name on the honours board at Lord's, the most famous honours board in world cricket. His 6th Test century, his 5th outside of India. And Anand on our WhatsApp group brought up a quite a nice stat, wasn't it, about Indian openers. The last 4 centuries to be made by Indian openers outside of Asia have all been made by KL Rahul, dating back to Sydney in January 2015.
Oh, he was absolutely superb today. I switched over from the TV broadcast to BBC Radio when I went out to get some milk before, and it was at the start of his partnership with Pujara.
Was the milk fundamental to this story?
It's just explaining why I was listening on radio rather than watching the live broadcast at the time, which is a sin normally, but I need my coffee. And our favourite Ashes winning captain described how boring a partnership of Pujara and Rahul would be. I was just thinking, we've seen Rahul bat in all formats, and he is one of the most beautiful players to watch. He's so classical, so risky. Yep. I remember seeing him score 199 against England in 2016 in India. And we saw at the end, by the time he got to his 100, he was at strike rate just under 50. Earlier on, when conditions and the quality of bowling demanded it, then he was going along at a strike rate of 20 odd, while Rohit had managed to pick off Curran a lot. But he respected the bowlers, he respected the conditions. I thought England in that first session, the change bowlers were poor, but Robinson and Anderson probably bowled a little bit too wide and didn't make them play quite enough, which is actually a reasonable tactic to two white ball openers who you'd expect to go chasing anything, but they were both so disciplined. And that first session, to go in at lunch, early lunch, but still not to have lost a wicket at that point, has set up the whole day. And in fact, I think his discipline in leaving the ball and his defence earlier on is even more impressive than the glorious shots he was playing through the offside later on. because I mean, Jimmy Anderson's taken how many wickets? More wickets at Lords than a lot of good bowlers have taken in their whole career. He knows those conditions. They're weird to begin with anyway with the slope. And I think Rahul batted when we got rolled over twice on the last tour. So that defence and not losing a wicket between both openers early on was the biggest plus of today for me.
That, Dan, is Test cricket, isn't it? You have those difficult moments early on today. Was tricky batting conditions for India, and they fought hard, and then they earned the right to continue tomorrow when the weather conditions might be a bit better with a foundation to build on. That's Test cricket.
Yeah, like you said, textbook. They did the hard work. They saw off really probing opening spells from Jimmy and from Robinson. And the weaker bowler came on, didn't bowl particularly well, wasn't as tight, and they cashed in. That's a sign of a really good, if you're opening the batting like that in Test cricket, you're going to do pretty well. And I think the way that, it's just a textbook way for any struggling batsman, to look at that and think that is what is required. It was just brilliant. I think Rohit Sharma played fantastically well. I love watching Rohit bat.
I'll tell you what, Dan, I was desperate for him to get a century.
Yeah,
he's never scored a century outside of India. That's his highest score outside of India.
He will before he goes home, definitely.
Yeah. That's your prophecy.
Yeah, I think he is terrific to watch. He's so he's just silky, isn't he? He's like a nice, you kind of set in to watch Rohit Sharma and you think this is why I sort of got into cricket. This is why I fell in love with cricket, and he was absolutely textbook. Would have liked to have seen him get 100. But that just goes to show really with Rahul, he was struggling to start with. Rohit was, he cashed in off Sam Curran's first over. I think he took 16 off Curran. Rahul was about 10 off 50 odd, I think. And he was struggling. He kept, he went for his little poke outside off stump a few times quite early on. Which is, that's kind of the only thing, if you were being ultra critical, it's the only thing in his game today that looked like the only way that he was going to get out was potentially the odd tiny little sort of flirt outside off stump. But yeah, he sat in, let Rohit do his thing. And then when Rohit got out, he sort of he didn't explode, but he kind of got set in and cashed in and thought, right, I'm settled in now. I've done the hard work. I'm going to cash in and get the rewards.
Rob, where do you stand on Virat Kohli? And don't say his neck. I think he's one of my favourite players in world cricket. I just love the way he plays. When he's on song, I don't think there's anybody better to watch in the game. He's struggling at the moment, isn't he? That 42 that he made today was out of tenacity and fight. It wasn't the flowing Virat that we used to. Yeah,
I mean, this is why he's one of the best batsmen. He knows he's not on form. So he adapted his game and he was just like knocking it around. It wasn't as fluent. We've all seen him play a lot better than he did today. But I mean, 42 is a reasonable score that a lot of players would be happy with. But yeah, he had to work for it today. He got out to a good ball. But yeah, I mean, he's gonna come back into form at some stage. Let's just hope it's not too early.
That battle between Virat and Jimmy, though, it's proper Test cricket. That you've got two of the all-time greats, basically, haven't you? You've got one of the best batsmen that's ever played the game for India. You've got England's best bowler of all time going at each other tooth and nail, and it's great to watch stuff like that.
It is, but we had Jimmy bowled 2 balls at him early and then got taken off. So I'm not sure if it was because just to I don't know, stop him getting injured or whatever. But I didn't quite understand why he wasn't bowling at Virat earlier, a lot more earlier in his innings. So yeah, it could be because he was held back just because he's got his injury niggles, and that's fine. If not, then I don't know what we've done there. I think we could have missed a trick because Virat's going to have. It doesn't matter who you are, and no matter how he's probably one of the greatest batsmen in the world. It doesn't matter who you are, but when there's a little bit of pressure on, and there is when Jimmy Anderson's bowling at him, he's going to feel uncomfortable. So, yeah, it would have been nice.
Did you see Athers did a really good piece on the Sky coverage where he they went down to third man and showed Virat marking sort of fifth or sixth stump, just in his stride. And he was saying even a player with Virat Kohli's ability, who's marking a mark to say that if anything's bowled outside of this line, I'm completely going to leave it. First ball bowled within, well past the mark, and he pushes at it. And that tells you all you need to really know in terms of how hard it is, even for these great players. And I think the 40 that Virat made is testament to how great he is, because
he's gone back
42 and he never looked in.
Yeah, he's gone back to like little basic techniques to help him out. He probably used to do that when he was learning his trade. And when he's off form, he just doesn't expand on anything, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Joe Root, I don't know if he still does that, but he always used to take a guard on basically fourth stump outside the off stump, and kind of he'd drag two lines with his spikes, and one would basically be to tell him where his off stump was and where to. Yeah, that was his guide, and that was how he was going to play. Neil, in terms of Virat, how did you see him today? I mean, it wasn't easy for him today, but he'll take a lot from getting 42, I guess.
I think sometimes you learn more when you've really got to struggle for the runs, because the bowling was good, and he respected it. I thought he didn't really go all out in the way that he often can, especially early on, and that's where people think he's vulnerable. That bowlers will play on his ego, that he needs to get a few fours away. But today, I thought he just ground it out. And actually, on the thing with Jimmy, where the stat went that I think 2 of the first 50-odd balls that Virat faced were from Jimmy. When Pujara went, I think Jimmy was coming towards the end of a spell and then stayed on a bit longer. But that was actually the second most impressive thing about Rahul today, is that he almost shepherded Virat through Jimmy's spell, so that he barely faced any balls early on. And it was only when the new ball came that he had to face him again. That takes quite a bit of doing to one of the best batsmen of all time to tell him, I'm gonna keep you away from this guy who's just got 2 wickets, including an absolute seed. Yeah. I mean, he's taken out Rowan with a seed, hasn't he?
Somebody that needs protecting, Neil, and I feel for him at the moment. Poor old Cheteshwar Pujara. Terrific player, powers of concentration. He can bat forever. And we had a conversation earlier on in this series of podcasts about who we would have batting for your life. I'm afraid to tell you, your man's probably just killed you today, because he's not doing it for you, is he?
No, and I think people have said this about the Duke's ball in general, but especially the batch that have come out this year, in that they don't die. It's 70 odd overs in. Bowlers were still getting something out of that ball. So his standard method of just blunting an attack until the ball dies and then picking them off isn't going to work anywhere near as well as it does in India or it does in Australia, because that ball just keeps on going. So he needs to find a better way to score and to survive than just playing out time, because at the moment, with a very good bowling attack, whoever gets injured, England can call a really good bowling attack out of a pool of about 10 bowlers, I'd say, if not more. And he's got to find a way to do it better in England. Whenever I've seen him, it's been feast or famine, but he's never looked comfortable. Even at the Hampshire Bowl last series, where he scored 120 odd, it did not look easy for him at all, and he really looks like he's having to grind those out. But at the moment, he's not found a method.
Who comes in for Cheteshwar Pujara if they decide to go a different route for the 3rd test?
I'm not sure who else there is.
I mean, there's Vihari, isn't there? But it's not. That's not
Vihari,
like.
Yeah, I was going to say Vihari or Agarwal fit back 3.
Yeah, I've heard Agarwal may have recovered from his concussion, and he's batted number of different positions. He's had his most success opening, but he's batted really well lower down the order as well. Vihari has gone lower down the order, and I think he opened in Australia in 2018 for a match. We've got everyone's favourite white ball player, Surya Kumar Yadav, who I'm not sure where him and Shaw are there, but they were coming over from Sri Lanka after getting out of being Pandya'd.
Well, they're definitely in the country now. I'd love to see a bit of Sky.
That
in
would
this
be
series.
absolutely amazing. I'd love to see that. I loved watching him bat.
I mean, the only thing that with Surya Kumar is that I had Jimmy Pamant on, the Mumbai Indians fielding coach, and we spoke about some of the stars of Mumbai Indians, and Surya Kumar Yadav's name came up, and he was praising him for adding a bit of stamina and concentration to his game so he could play a full 2020. Now, 5-day test match is a little bit more than that, Neil, isn't it?
Well, it depends who you are. For certain members of England's top order, then 20 overs may be a good target. No, that's a very very good point. I don't know how his fitness is, but to be honest, you've got to go through a very high level of fitness tests to even get in the squad. We've seen Varun Chakravarti get dropped due to failing those fitness tests before, and Virat won't accept anything less than
I think Virat Kohli hands out the boarding passes at the airport, and if you're not fit, if you can't run to it quick enough, you don't get it. You can't get on that plane. I mean, talking about batting for your life, that kind of age-old pub question. We chose ours the other day. As I say, Neil went for Cheteshwar Pujara. Rob, you're confusing me with Randy written on the screen. Rob, if you could pick somebody out of either squad on show at the moment to bat for your life, has to bat out the day to keep Rob Lewis alive tomorrow, who would you pick?
That's a very good question.
Would it be the man that you've got the phone number of, that you phoned from the fort in Sri Lanka? Would it be Joseph?
I would. I was just thinking that's just such an obvious answer, but yeah, you couldn't really argue against me if I did choose Ruti. I mean, he's shown he's back to his best at the minute. He was terrific at Trent Bridge. I don't think he gave many chances away in either innings. So yeah, and obviously Rahul is proving very difficult to shift. So yeah, I mean, they're the informed players, but I mean, I'm sure we were talking about Kohli. He's going to come back into form. Pujara will come back into form. Neil was saying he's struggling in England, but I mean, when you're that good, you kind of adapt. And I'm a fan of Pujara, so I think they shouldn't drop him. I don't think.
I'll stick with you before I ask Dan the same question, but the KL Rahul situation, we talked about him being fourth, maybe in fifth in line for the throne of opening the innings for India. It just shows you, doesn't it, how sport can change for you. You know, he gets on that plane, he's maybe anticipating 5 test matches, watching from the sidelines, and all of a sudden, a couple of things out of his control happened, a couple of injuries. He finds a bit of form in the pre-season game against the county select 11. He's in the test team, suddenly finds himself in form, and the rest is history. He's away, isn't he? And that's how sport can treat you, can't it?
It is, and it just shows the importance of remaining professional when you're on the sidelines. And it's happened with us. I'm not sure I totally agree with him coming straight back in the team, but Mo showed some form in whatever format they're playing these days. I'm not gonna say the name, but yeah, he seems to come back in. And I do love Mo, but we've had players on the side. He's just kind of leapfrogged them, and where Mo is probably thinking he's going to have a finals day somewhere with fireworks going off and all of this, and DJs playing. But now he's back in the test team. So yeah, you just need to be ready. It's crazy how quickly it can change.
Have you not been offered a gig DJing at one of those 100 games?
I was actually thinking I'm dead against the 100, but if they said, "Do you want to come and DJ at one?" I'm gonna have to reconsider it. I'm a bit shallow like that, but
I'm a massive hypocrite. If somebody offered me a commentary job at the 100, I would take it as well. My principles only take me so far.
But James, but not a corporate box.
No, I did send down a corporate box. Yeah, I did do that. Dan, who's going to bat for your life out of the two squads?
I think the rock and roll answer would be to, say Rishabh Pant. But,
you live life on the edge, then, don't you?
I think, I'd say Joe Root probably. I think Virat is, once you get to 30, probably Virat, but I think Root gets to 30 a little bit easier than Virat.
You need somebody to get 50 for you. Joe Root's your man, obviously.
Joe Root, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you say you live for the amount of years for the runs they get with Root, you're going to get a solid sort of 70 years, and I'll take that.
Yeah. Let's looking ahead to tomorrow, Neil. 276 for 3, with KL and Ajinkya Rahane starting tomorrow morning. Power to add to that, isn't there? I mean, what kind of score do you think India are looking at in this first innings?
Well, it's going to depend a lot on the first hour, where I think they're going to have to play out a lot of good bowling from a refreshed bowling attack, where a night's rest will carry them through that first hour and that first session before they can really open up. We have slightly weakened our batting with the return of Ishant over Shardul Thakur and Ashwin. So we're looking at 4 proper batters left, and whatever Bumrah and Shami can smash. That could be 5, that could be 50. So I reckon we've got to be looking for 400, 450, and be bowling by end of play. Hopefully, England a couple down.
Rob, obviously, the ideal scenario from the England perspective is to roll India as quickly as possible tomorrow. But if I offered you, 7 quick wickets for 100 runs, or 2 hours of Rishabh Pant doing Rishabh Pant stuff, which would you pick?
No question. I do like watching Rishabh Pant bat, but also enjoying them winning, funnily enough, and playing well. So I'll take the former offer. It's hard to see it happening at the minute. But this is where you just need to kind of keep the faith, keep doing what you're doing, stay disciplined, and it will come. So the wickets just come out of the blue sometimes, and it's just when kind of heads drop in the field and lethargy kicks in, that's when the game can totally get away from you. So it's not got away from us yet by any means. 2 wickets changes momentum. That's an old cliche, and it is true. We're hoping for early wickets. We need to get Rahul out. But yeah, he batted so well today, you have to wonder how we're going to do that.
I was listening to Andrew Strauss on the Sky commentary, and he said that he found it very hard to start again the following morning. And you can understand that, can't you? Going to bed with everything whizzing around in your head and then trying to reset the following day. So England need to get him very early tomorrow morning, I think, before he gets back into his stride again. You mentioned Moeen Ali, Rob, and regardless of, he hasn't played Test cricket since February. He's been bowling white ball in the dreaded 100, etc. But I didn't see a huge amount of him today, but I thought he bowled quite nicely when he came on.
Yeah, he's a very neat and tidy bowler, and when he gets tonked for 6, it doesn't faze him. It's just like he just gets back on it. He is neat and tidy, but he didn't. On the other hand, he didn't look too threatening, unfortunately. Our only other spin option's Joe Root, but I don't think he's going to bowl because he didn't bowl at Trent Bridge when I thought he might be able to. But we'll see. It's great having Mo in the team. He does bring a lot of balance to us. So I'm not against it, but I just think maybe I don't know why we're not going for a spin option, a more kind of full-time spin option. You know what I mean?
Dan, your hopes for tomorrow with India starting in a very strong position. It is a case of trying to get that first hour and get wickets, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the long tail gives England half a chance, but I can't see India getting any less than 450. I think 400 will be enough to beat this England side. I can see India win by an innings. I don't know. I'm optimistic because Robinson and Anderson bowled really well. Another night's rest, still a new ball. Yeah, nip out 3. They could be 300 for 6, couldn't they? And then it leaves not much of a tail for Pant or Jadeja to have a swing with. But
Pant doesn't need much of a tail. If it's his day, that 300 could turn into 400 very
yeah,
quickly.
I mean, I think with the India's tail, though, I think it's a realistic possibility that they could be, the other end could just be skittled and Pant could be stranded. But I don't know. I think it's a bit wishful thinking. I'd love that to happen. I'm a massive fan of Rishabh Pant, but I'd love him to get a duck tomorrow.
I forgot to mention, watches, my product placement. There's my book just there, I think. Following on in the footsteps of cricketing fathers. Just a bit of product placement. Just chuck a few things around on picture just to make sure that people can see it. That's about the end of it for today. Quick roundup of who you think's going to win this test match. What's the result going to be? Neil, I guess you're still with India, eh?
Yeah. India and Pant to knock at least one into the long room.
What, through the window or through the open door?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go open door. Harder shot.
Through the roof.
Mind the windows. Mind the windows, Rishabh. Dan, the result of this game.
It's going to have to be India.
There was pain in your face. Pain etched across your face with that. Rob, what about you?
I'll stick to my eternal optimism, which is sometimes just misplaced. But England.
Go on, Rob.
Do you know what? I thought it might be the draw ahead of this game, and I still think it might be. I don't think that Lord's pitch necessarily deteriorates too much. If England can bat anything like, and I know that's a big if, but if they can bat anything like, this game is not dead yet. Rob, Dan, and Neil, as always, thanks ever so much for joining me on today's recording of the podcast. I have been James Butler, the Cricket Badger, and we will see you or speak to you again this time tomorrow. Thanks very much for listening, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, gents.
Cheers, James.
Cheers.